I still remember the sound of their laughter echoing through the hallway. It was like a never-ending nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. Every day was the same, walking into school, trying to make it to my locker without being noticed, and praying that nobody would make a snide comment about my clothes, my hair, or my interests. I was the perfect target for their jokes, and they reveled in it. Their words cut deep like a knife twisting in my gut. "What's wrong with your hair? Did you stick your finger in a socket?" Or, "What are you wearing? Did you raid your grandma's closet?" The sentences still linger in my mind, a constant reminder of the pain and humiliation I felt. It was like I was invisible, a mere ghost drifting through the halls, unnoticed by anyone except when it was time to make a joke at my expense. The teachers would sometimes try to intervene, but it only seemed to make things worse. They'd scold the kids, but the kids would just find new, more creative ways to mock me. I felt lost, like I was wandering through a dense forest with no map or compass. I had no direction, no sense of purpose. I felt like I was just going through the motions, trying to survive each day without too much damage. But deep down, I was dying. My confidence was shattered, my self-worth was non-existent, and I started to wonder if things would ever get better. But one day, something changed. One of my classmates made a particularly cruel joke, something that caught me off guard and sparked a fire within me. It was like a switch had been flipped, and suddenly, the anger that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted. I felt a burning sensation in my chest, a sense of injustice that I couldn't ignore. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was ready to take a stand, to fight back against the cruel words and laughter that had haunted me for so long. I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to do it, but I knew that things couldn't stay the same. I had to change, and I had to take back control. As I walked out of school that day, I made a promise to myself. I was going to prove them wrong. I was going to show them that I was more than just a joke, that I was more than just a target for their cruelty. I was going to make a difference, and I was going to make them regret ever crossing me. The question was, where would this newfound anger take me? Would it consume me or would it fuel me? Only time would tell. I remember those dark days like they were yesterday. The feeling of being a laughing stock, a joke to everyone around me, had finally taken its toll. After hitting rock bottom and feeling a deep sense of anger, I was at a crossroads. I couldn't shake the nagging thought that I was worthless, that I'd never amount to anything more than a mere spectacle for others to mock. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I knew I had to confront it head-on. As I wandered aimlessly through my days, feeling like I was stuck in a rut, I began to realize that I had a choice to make. I could continue down the same path, accepting the status quo and living a life of mediocrity, or I could try to change. It was a daunting thought, but something within me sparked. Maybe it was the anger that had been building up for so long. Maybe it was a lingering glimmer of hope, but whatever it was, it ignited a fire within me. I started questioning everything about myself, my worth, my potential, my very existence. It was a painful process, but I knew I needed to face the harsh realities of my life. And then something clicked. I realized that I wasn't a victim of circumstance, that I wasn't destined to be a joke forever. I had the power to change my own story. As the anger that had once consumed me began to morph into a sense of purpose, I found myself becoming more driven. I started to channel my energy into motivation, using every snide comment and snicker to fuel my determination. It was a strange, almost unnerving feeling, but I welcomed it with open arms. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life. As I walked through the streets, the once familiar feeling of embarrassment and shame began to lift. I started to see the world in a different light, to notice the little things that I'd previously ignored. The sun seemed a bit brighter, the air a bit fresher. It was as if I'd been living in a perpetual state of fog, and suddenly the clouds were parting. I couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead, whether this newfound motivation would be enough to carry me through the tough times. But for now, I was content to ride the wave, to see where this newfound sense of purpose would take me. And as I walked, a small, almost imperceptible smile began to form on my lips. The journey was just beginning, but I was ready to face whatever came next. I still remember the fire that burned within me as I walked home from that humiliating party. The words of my so-called friends still echoed in my mind. But this time, instead of fueling my anger, they sparked something new, a sense of determination. As he continues to fuel his motivation, I found myself plunging deeper into the world of business, devouring books and podcasts, and scouring the internet for success stories. One evening, as I sat in my cramped, cluttered apartment, surrounded by post-it notes and empty energy drink cans, I stumbled upon an article about a rising industry that caught my eye. It was about innovative, eco-friendly products that were disrupting the market and making waves. Something about it resonated with me. Perhaps it was the alignment with my own values or the thrill of creating something from scratch, but I felt a surge of excitement. As I delved deeper into research, I discovered that this industry wasn't just about selling products. It was about creating a movement. I spent the next few sleepless nights brainstorming, outlining, and scheming, and slowly but surely, a business idea began to take shape. With a newfound sense of purpose, I started to lay the groundwork for my own company. I spent hours poring over financial projections, perfecting my pitch, and networking with anyone who would listen. My friends and family thought I was crazy, but I knew that I was onto something. I could feel it in my bones, the thrill of uncertainty, the rush of taking a risk, and the pride of building something from scratch. And so, with a spark of entrepreneurship burning bright within me, I set out on a journey that would change my life forever. But little did I know, this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be paved with challenges, setbacks, and more doubters than believers. Would I be able to overcome them, or would my dreams of success crumble under the weight of reality? I still remember the countless nights I spent staring at my ceiling, wondering if I was delusional to think I could make it as an entrepreneur. The doubts crept in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in over my head. Every meeting with potential investors ended in rejection, every idea I pitched seemed to fall flat, and every setback made me question my sanity. I recall walking down the streets of the city, feeling like a tiny fish in a massive pond. The towering skyscrapers seemed to mock me, their gleaming glass facades reflecting my own inadequacy. I felt like a joke, a foolish little boy playing dress-up in a grown man's suit. People would often ask me what I was doing, and I'd try to sound confident, but the words would catch in my throat. I was spinning my wheels, going through the motions, but I had no traction, no momentum. I was a ship without anchor or sails, drifting aimlessly on a stormy sea. The investors I met were a skeptical bunch, their faces a map of wrinkles and frowns. They'd listened to my pitch, their eyes narrowing with every passing sentence. I could see the doubt in their eyes, the unspoken questions that left me feeling like I was begging for scraps. "What makes you think you're qualified to do this?" they'd ask, their tone dripping with disdain. "How are you going to compete with established companies?" they'd sneer. The questions cut deep, like a sharp knife to the soul. I'd try to defend my ideas, but the words would come out hollow, lacking conviction. I was torn between believing in myself and believing the doubts that swirled around me. There were times when I thought about giving up, about packing it all in and slinking away with my tail between my legs. The fear of failure was crippling, the uncertainty like a dark cloud that hung over my head. But something inside me refused to quit. A spark of anger, a flame of defiance that burned bright in the darkness. It was the same anger that had driven me to start this journey in the first place, the same fire that had fueled my passion and ambition. As I walked through the city, feeling lost and alone, I stumbled upon a small graffiti tag scrawled on a building wall. It read, "Fall 7 times, stand up 8. I stopped, my heart beating like a drum in my chest. It was a message from the universe, a reminder that every setback was an opportunity to rise again. In that moment, I made a decision. I would not give up. I would not let the doubts and fears consume me. I would rise above them, using every obstacle as a stepping stone to success. The question was how? I remember the day my luck finally started to change. After months of perseverance and determination, the universe decided to give me a break. It was as if all the hard work, sweat, and tears I put into my business had finally paid off. I was sitting in a small coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles, sipping on a lukewarm coffee, when I received an email from an investor who had shown interest in my company. My heart started racing as I read through the message, and I could feel a surge of adrenaline rushing through my veins. The investor wanted to meet with me to discuss a potential investment in my business. I couldn't believe it. This was the break I had been waiting for. I immediately started preparing for the meeting, researching the investor's background and perfecting my pitch. A week later, I walked into the investor's office, confident and determined. I presented my business plan, highlighting the unique features of my product and the potential for growth. The investor listened attentively, asking tough questions and scrutinizing every detail. I left the meeting feeling optimistic, but I knew I couldn't let my guard down. I had been disappointed before, and I wasn't about to let my hopes get crushed again. But as the days went by, I started to feel a sense of excitement building up inside me. And then the call came. The investor was willing to take a chance on me and my business, and I was going to receive the funding I so desperately needed. I was over the moon with joy. This was the breakthrough I had been working towards for months. With the investment in place, my business started to gain traction. I was able to hire more staff, expand my marketing efforts, and start building a customer base. It was exhilarating to see my dream take shape, and I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment with every small victory. But with success comes new challenges, and I knew I couldn't let my foot off the gas. I had to keep pushing forward, innovating and adapting to the ever-changing landscape of my industry. The question was, could I maintain this momentum and continue to grow? Only time would tell, but I was ready for the challenge. As the business grew, so did the demands on my time. I was no longer just a one-man show, but the leader of a rapidly expanding company. The excitement was palpable, but so were the new challenges that came with scaling. I remember walking into our new office, a spacious warehouse converted into a hip workspace, and feeling a mix of emotions. Pride, excitement, and a dash of fear all swirled together in my stomach. We were growing so fast, and I was determined to keep up. But growth brought its own set of problems. The market was constantly shifting, and customer needs were evolving at a breakneck pace. What worked yesterday might not work today. I had to stay one step ahead of the competition and anticipate the changes before they happened. That's when I realized I couldn't do it alone. I needed a team, and not just any team. A team of talented individuals who shared my vision and were as passionate about our mission as I was. I started hiring new employees, each one bringing their unique perspective and expertise to the table. It was exhilarating to see the company come to life, but it was also overwhelming. I had to learn to delegate, to trust my team members, and to let go of some of the control. It was a hard lesson to learn, but one that was essential for our success. As the team grew, so did the complexities of scaling a business. We faced new challenges every day, from managing cash flow to navigating the intricacies of HR. It was a steep learning curve, but I was determined to climb it. And then there was the pressure to innovate. With so many new companies entering the market, it was easy to get lost in the noise. I knew I had to stay ahead of the curve, to keep pushing the boundaries of what was possible. I would often find myself lying awake at night, thinking about the next big thing, wondering how we could disrupt the market and stay ahead of the competition. It was a never-ending cycle of creativity and problem-solving, but one that drove me forward. As I looked around at my team, I knew that we were on the cusp of something special. We were building something that would change lives, that would make a real impact. And I was proud to be leading the charge. But little did I know, the real challenge was only just beginning. Managing my team, keeping them motivated and engaged, and making sure we continued to innovate would be the ultimate test of my leadership. Could I rise to the occasion? Only time would tell. I still remember the day my business expanded beyond my wildest dreams. It was as if all the late nights and hard work had finally paid off. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of a new challenge learning to be a leader. As I grew my team, I realized the importance of developing my leadership skills. I knew I couldn't just be a good entrepreneur, I had to be a good manager too. So I started reading books on management, seeking advice from mentors, and even took a few courses to improve my skills. But leadership is not just about you, it's about the people you're leading. I knew I had to foster a positive company culture, where everyone felt valued, respected, and empowered to do their best work. I wanted my employees to love coming to work, to feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves. I started by creating an open-door policy, where anyone could come to me with their ideas, concerns, or just to chat. I made sure to celebrate every small win, no matter how insignificant it seemed. And I prioritized team-building activities like outings, workshops, and training sessions. The results were astounding. My employees started to thrive, their confidence grew, and their passion for their work was palpable. The energy in the office was electric, and I knew we were onto something special. As word spread about our amazing company culture, top talent started to take notice. People from all over the industry began to apply to work with us, and I was thrilled to welcome them to our team. But with growth comes new challenges. I knew I had to keep adapting, keep learning, and keep innovating. I asked myself, what kind of leader do I want to be? How can I keep my team motivated and engaged? And most importantly, how can I keep my business growing and thriving? The answers were far from easy, but I was ready for the challenge. I knew that the fate of my company and the livelihoods of my employees rested on my shoulders. I was no longer just a small entrepreneur. I was a leader with a vision and a mission. And as I looked around my bustling office, I knew I had made it. I had turned my anger and passion into a successful business, and now it was time to see where it would take me next. Would I be able to continue inspiring and motivating my team? Could I sustain this momentum and take my business to even greater heights? The journey was far from over, and I was eager to see what was next. Despite his success, I was about to experience a harsh reality check. I had grown complacent, thinking that my business was invincible. But the truth is, no one is immune to setbacks and failures. I was about to face a series of challenges that would test my resolve, force me to reevaluate my strategy, and ultimately teach me valuable lessons that would propel my business to even greater heights. It started with a major client pulling out of a deal at the last minute. The loss was substantial, and I was left reeling, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. I spent countless hours poring over the details of the deal, analyzing every move, every conversation, every decision. It was a painstaking process, but one that ultimately revealed a flaw in our sales strategy. We had become too reliant on a single client, and when they pulled out, it left us vulnerable. But I didn't let that setback hold me back. Instead, I used it as an opportunity to learn and adapt. I diversified our client base, investing in new marketing strategies and expanding our reach into new industries. It wasn't easy, and there were many late nights and early mornings spent brainstorming and problem-solving. But slowly, we began to see results. New clients started to come on board, and our revenue began to climb once again. However, just as things were starting to look up, we faced another setback. One of our key team members left the company, citing burnout and exhaustion. I was devastated, not just because of the loss of talent, but also because I had failed to recognize the signs of burnout in my own team. I had been so focused on growing the business that I had neglected the well-being of my employees. It was a tough lesson to learn, but one that ultimately made me a better leader. I realized that the success of my business wasn't just about the bottom line. It was about the people who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make it happen. I implemented new policies and procedures to prioritize employee well-being, from flexible work arrangements to mental health support. It wasn't a quick fix, but over time, I saw a significant improvement in morale and productivity. As I navigated these setbacks and learned from my mistakes, I began to realize the value of failure. It's a concept that's often touted in the business world, but rarely truly understood. Failure isn't just about falling down. It's about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and trying again. It's about learning from your mistakes and using those lessons to fuel your growth. I applied these lessons to my business, and the results were nothing short of remarkable. We continued to grow, to innovate, and to push boundaries. And I continued to learn, to adapt, and to evolve as a leader. I realized that the anger that had once driven me to succeed had given way to a new motivator, a passion for growth, for learning, and for making a difference. But little did I know, the next chapter in my journey would be just as challenging, if not more so. How would I continue to navigate the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, and what new lessons would I learn along the way? The journey was far from over, and I was eager to find out what lay ahead. I still remember the rush of adrenaline I felt as my business began to thrive. The days of being a laughingstock were far behind me, and I had finally earned the respect I deserved. But I didn't let that satisfaction lull me into complacency. With my business on solid ground, I set my sights on new goals and challenges. As I looked out at the city skyline from my office window, I felt an insatiable hunger to expand my reach. I wanted to take my business to new heights, to explore untapped markets and industries. The thrill of the unknown was intoxicating, and I reveled in the freedom to pursue my vision without apology. My team and I pored over market research, analyzing trends and identifying areas of opportunity. We strategized late into the night, debating the pros and cons of each potential move. But I was undaunted by the risks. I was convinced that my business had the potential to disrupt entire industries. And so, we took the leap. We launched new product lines, targeting sectors we had previously overlooked. We formed strategic partnerships with other companies, leveraging our combined expertise to drive innovation. The results were staggering, our revenue soared, and our market share expanded exponentially. But with success comes a new set of challenges. As my business grew, so did my profile. I was invited to speak at conferences to share my insights with aspiring entrepreneurs. I was hailed as a respected thought leader, and my opinions carried weight in the industry. At first, the attention was overwhelming. I was uncomfortable with the spotlight, preferring to focus on the work rather than the accolades. But I came to realize that my platform gave me a responsibility to inspire others, to show them that success is within reach if they're willing to put in the effort. As I looked out at the sea of faces at a recent conference, I felt a surge of pride. I was no longer the target of jokes, the laughingstock of my peers. I was a leader, a trailblazer, and a testament to the power of ambition and vision. And I knew that this was just the beginning. The next chapter of my journey was waiting, full of new challenges and opportunities. But I was ready. I had the fire in my belly and the drive to reach even greater heights. What's next? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: I won't be content to simply rest on my laurels. The world had better be ready for me. As I sit here, reflecting on the journey that has brought me to where I am today, I am still in awe of the sheer magnitude of it all. From being the target of jokes and ridicule to becoming the owner of a $10 million company, it's a story that even I sometimes struggle to believe. But as I look back, I realize that it was all fueled by one thing: anger. Anger at being belittled, anger at being doubted, and anger at being told I wasn't good enough. It was a fire that burned deep within me, driving me to push beyond my limits and prove everyone wrong. And yet, as I sit here today, I realize that that anger has slowly given way to a sense of peace, a sense of closure. I've come full circle, and I've emerged on the other side, scarred but wiser. I think back to all the late nights, the early mornings, and the endless cups of coffee. I think back to the times I felt like giving up, when it all seemed too much to bear. But I didn't. I kept pushing, kept grinding, and kept believing in myself. And it paid off. Oh, how it paid off. The company I built from scratch is now a thriving $10 million empire. I've created jobs, I've created opportunities, and I've created a legacy that will outlast me. But more than that, I've created a sense of purpose, a sense of direction. I know now that my anger was just a catalyst, a spark that ignited a fire that has burned brightly for years. And as I look to the future, I know that I'll continue to use that fire to drive me, to push me, and to inspire me. I've come full circle, and I've emerged on the other side, a better, wiser, and more compassionate person. I've learned to harness my anger, to channel it into something positive, and to use it to make a difference in the world. And as I look out at the world, I know that I'm not alone. There are countless others out there struggling to find their place, struggling to find their purpose. And to them I say this: don't give up, don't lose faith. Keep pushing, keep grinding, and keep believing in yourself. Because if I, a target of jokes and ridicule, can become the owner of a $10 million company, then anything is possible. Anything.